as soon as the system processes.
Don't know how to turn that one off except to.
It's that time again. It's Wednesday at 12 o'clock. Welcome all of you out there to the 12 o'clock show with Mayor Joe. Joining us today are a number of guests, but we're going to start off with the Reynoldsburg Historical Society President, Mary Turner-Stoots. Welcome, Mary. Thank you so much for agreeing to be here with us today.
Well, I'm glad I could be here.
We also have Reynoldsburg City Councilwoman Shanette Strickland and Reynoldsburg City Schools Board Member Angela Abram here today as well, but they'll be a little bit later on in the show. So Mary, you and I are going to start right off. One of the big questions that I always ask everybody is, with everything going on with COVID, what are some of the things that have kind of brought you joy? And so for you, what has kind of gotten you through all of this COVID craziness?
Well, we did some virtual tours, or the guys did it. They let me help put the music in and put it out there on the internet. So that was a lot of fun because people couldn't come to the museum. We thought we'd bring the museum to them. And on the homepage of our website, you can see those virtual tours. And I was kind of fortunate because when all this hit, I was in the hospital, so I had time to recover and I didn't miss any activities that we would have had. All of our spring tours and everything. I didn't have to worry about that. But while we've also been very busy, we just authored a book. It's called Reynoldsburg High School, 1899 to 1970. That's the class of 1899 on the front. And it has all pictures of all the composites that we have in the museum of all the classes. And that was a lot of fun. We published that in January. And I'm working currently, I signed a contract with Arcadia Publishers. They do a series called Images of America. Mm-hmm. And these are 2 books of other cities that they've done. And we're going to come out with that at the end of the year. So I'm currently working on that, gathering pictures, and I'm doing the captions. And Connie Parkinson, who wrote the history of Reynoldsburg, is helping me with all the captions and making sure that I'm telling the truth.
That's amazing. I knew about the class graduating class book, but I was not aware of the other one. So that's pretty cool. I know I've seen those at Barnes & Noble from some other communities. I remember actually I purchased one for my mom for Westerville, where she was from. So that'll be nice to have some representation for Reynoldsburg.
Yeah.
How long has your family lived in Reynoldsburg?
Well, we've been here since 1863. And my grandmother graduated from Reynoldsburg in 1917 and my mother in 1947. And I graduated in 1970. So now you all know how old I am. But there's members in our society that has had up to 7 generations of family here. So my family is relatively new compared to them, because we have one member who their family was the original settlers. In fact, we have several members, 2 or 3, I think. So yeah, we've been around a while.
That's one of the reasons why my wife and I actually picked Reynoldsburg, is just kind of, that great feel of some history and some tradition all the way throughout. I moved around way too much, so I lived all over the place, but it's nice to have Reynoldsburg as a home. Now, how long have you been involved with the Historical Society?
Well, I really didn't join until 2015, and I kind of jumped in with both feet because their newsletter editor was retiring from that function because she wanted to take care of her mother. And they needed a newsletter editor. The webmaster wanted to retire from that job, so I took that and got a new website set up. They didn't have a Facebook page, so I set that up. I'm the Facebook administrator. They didn't have a publicity chair, so I'm doing that. I'm also centralizing all the communications So those jobs keep me pretty busy.
Yeah, social media tends to do that, especially in Reynoldsburg.
Yeah.
So let's take COVID out of it for right now. So when everything opens back up and it's safe to come out, if somebody wanted to arrange a tour with the Historical Society, what would be the best way to actually come in? Now, I know I've been there a couple of times. Both my kids were in Cub Scouts, and so they had the opportunity, and I remember going in them with them. But for everybody else that's out there that's watching, that when things are open, what can we do to arrange a tour?
Well, I've got some contact information behind me. I have a phone number, our website. You can contact us through the website. And our email, I don't know if you can see the email up here. It's a little bit small, but you can contact us in any of those ways. It all comes through me, and then I delegate it out to whoever handles it. And when usually if we do a private tour, it's one of our trustees that takes you through the museum. Is somebody that's pretty experienced that'll take you through, because we have 3 buildings. We have the garage with displays in there, the barn has displays, and as well as the house itself.
Now, I remember, I think we had an opportunity to sit at the house not long before all of this craziness started. And it was my first real look into, when you're not on a tour, but actually getting a few minutes to actually look at some of the displays. And it's, as a former history teacher, I always find it fascinating. And, it's one of those things where people, when they save things, this is kind of where all of that stuff ends up, which is great.
I fell in love with it when I first walked in. It's a wonderful, the house was built in around 1848. And Hannah Ashton's uncle lived there for a while. And it's just a very interesting house. It was moved. It used to sit up at the 5-point intersection where the Welcome to Reynoldsburg sign is. And we moved it to where it is today in 1993.
No, I don't think if you had just driven by, I don't think anybody would have known that had you not said. So, I mean, it's a great location for it. I like it in that kind of just on the outskirts of the Old Town area. And I know it's very popular, trick or treat. I know that was something, again, we didn't have a chance to do it this year, but I know trick or treat is a very popular destination in that area to always go by the Historical Society. And usually when there's when the community association hosts Christmas on the Town, I know that they participate as well, which is great. Now, what other kind of events? I know I just gave you 2, the Halloween and then Christmas on the Town, but what kind of events are you doing? Will you plan on doing once COVID is taken care of? And are there things that you're doing now that people can participate in even with COVID going on?
Well, we do some small private tours with masks and safety and everything like that. If people wanted to get a hold of us, like if they wanted to bring their family through or something like that, we just aren't doing any large groups. But after COVID passes, we'll keep our fingers crossed. We do classes. We've done classes on genealogy, calligraphy, chalkboard, sign painting. I want to try to get some different classes in there, maybe painting classes or flower arranging or something like that. We have speakers that come. Connie Parkinson was published 27 times and went on the New York Times bestseller list for 10 weeks at one point. And she did a talk on, do you want to be an author? And you could write a couple short stories and give them to her ahead of time, and she'd tell you if you were publishable or not. Rhonda Eberst, who is the librarian of the Living Library out at Summit Elementary School, came and did a talk, and I was so impressed. All these past students who are now grown that were in elementary school years ago, they all came and not only listened to her talk, but lined up to give her a hug. I mean, this woman is fantastic. She's very funny. I've done some speaking. I spoke at the Shriners, the Masons, the Civic Club, the Daughters of the American Revolution, and Wesley Ridge men's luncheons and women's luncheons, mostly about the Historical Society. I also do talks on paper sculptures because before the society, I did artwork, and I've had 3 gallery exhibits. So I do a talk on paper sculptures and how those are done. I do a talk on moving houses. You can stand on one corner in Old Reynoldsburg and you can see 5 houses that have been moved. And I also, my favorite, I graduated with a serial killer, and I have a talk called Homeroom to Homicide. And I talk about him. And don't worry, he was executed already in 2004, so he's not coming back. But he was a nice guy in school, but like I said, I graduated with him. I've done a lot of study on him. We do we do alumni walkthroughs. If you have an alumni banquet, nothing to do on Saturday morning before the banquet, we invite you to come through the museum. And we have, of course, the spring and fall tours of the third graders. You know, local history is a curriculum requirement with the state of Ohio. And so for the third grade, so they come and they tour the museum, the barn, they go down to the mural. We do a tombstone tour over at Silent Home Cemetery. They get to meet Hannah Ashton. The Reynoldsburg police come and help direct the traffic. The township trustees get in the mix and they mark all the graves for me. Barth Cotner does a wonderful talk at the mural. If it rains, we put the kids in a bus and take them on a bus tour. And so we've got it all planned out. It runs very smoothly, and each school brings all their third graders on a different day. And we're usually open for open house the third Saturday of every month, January through November. Then we do Christmas on the Town in December. And some of our past subjects, we try to have a theme or a subject. We have a Helping Hands open house where people bring food for Helping Hands. Western Electric was a huge open house. That we have the largest collection of Western Electric memorabilia, photos, artifacts in Central Ohio, maybe even in the state. We have over 6,000 pictures, obituaries. We have 23-inch notebooks, photo albums. They're all indexed. We have a 20-foot display case with artifacts and historical items from the Broad Street plant. We have a large collection of paper records, company memos, training manuals, and you can see part of it on our virtual tour on rths.info at our website. And on the second tour, you can see the display case. We do an artisan exhibit where all of our members that do different crafts, painting, and anything, any kind of art, they can bring those in and people can come and see them. We, of course, during the holidays, we have our Christmas gift shop, which is pretty big. You can come and buy things very cheaply. One of our members' father was a big time wrestler. He does a whole big time wrestling exhibit. And another member was in the Barnum and Bailey Circus. And she did aerial ballet. She rode the elephants. She fed baby tigers and with a bottle. And she sets up all her memorabilia from the Barnum and Bailey Circus. So that brings a big crowd. Usually in July, we have a community yard sale that's tentative. I don't know if we're going to do that. If we do it, they can buy a space, a 10 by 10 foot space for $20. They keep all their profit. We invite the community to buy a space. We participate in Saturday night in Old Reynoldsburg. In September is the 75th anniversary of the very first football team, the very first game. And they're going to celebrate that. They're getting decals for all the helmets of the football players. I have 4 members that are still living that were on that team. And I know I can get at least 2 of them, if not all 4, to come to this celebration. And I think that would be wonderful. We usually do a board game and card party, maybe in October. That all depends on COVID, of course. Beggars Night, Christmas on the Town. That's some of our activities, quite a bit.
Well, I know that people can become members in the organization. I know that on your Facebook page, there's a couple of Maxinermus fundraisers. We're all familiar with the restaurant fundraisers and things like that are out there to help support your organization. And you stole my thunder, Mary. I was going to talk about the 75th anniversary of that football game, but you stole my.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's great. It's great. Didn't even have to try and stump you on that one. You got me.
Yeah, I even sent headshots out of the yearbook of all the cheerleaders, the football players, the football managers, the homecoming court, all of that I sent to the Reynoldsburg School Administration Office because they're putting together a commemorative book.
Yeah.
And so I'm just real excited about this. And one of the members is coming from Michigan. I mean, and one of them is a doctor of theology that taught at Michigan State. We won't hold that against him. Um, and we also have one that worked in Washington, D.C. At rallied for veterans' rights and talked all over the country. These guys are not only played football in high school, but they're just extremely interesting people. I can't wait to meet them.
Well, it's going to be a good time. Hopefully, I think hopefully by this, midsummer, we should be able to kind of get a little bit back to some normalcy. I mean, people may struggle with masks, but my goal is to not have to cancel anything at all this year. It was not something that was an enjoyable thing last year. So hopefully this year, I know we're already talking about the 4th of July parade with the community association. We're getting ready for our fireworks display here for the city. We're talking about obviously the Tomato Festival, and I'll have to get with you about the Tomato Festival, maybe with some of the artwork that you have. We're really trying to emphasize with our Arts and Beautification Committee, maybe we can emphasize some of our residents' art that you have or other contributions to have a display out at the Tomato Festival this year. So that might be something that we'll get in touch with you about. Now, if somebody else wanted to get involved, if somebody wanted to be more than just a visitor, if they outside of just joining in through membership, are there opportunities for the public to become part of your group that helps run all of these things?
Well, we usually have members that volunteer. We're all volunteer, by the way. We don't have any paid positions. We usually have members that help, and our membership is really low. It's as far as cost. It's only $20 for a year for an individual, and a whole family can join for $25. So that's relatively cheap. And we send out the newsletter every other month. So and if there's something that's going on in between, we send postcards out. We try to keep the communication open very much. But usually volunteer, it's not a hard position. It's mostly just standing around and being there. If somebody's in the room, that you have to realize we have 3 floors in the house, and we have to have somebody on every floor. We have to somebody in the barn, somebody in the garage. So when we have these events, we have to have a lot of people help out and volunteer. So if they'd like to get involved, there's a membership form on the website. You can download it and send it in to us.
We'll try and get some of that information out. I'm going to ask my assistant, Jennifer, do we have any questions so far on anything? No. All right. Apparently, Mary, you have answered everyone's questions ahead of them even asking. So that's always a good thing. You are more than welcome to stay on through the remainder of the show. But if you have other things you need to attend to, it's completely up to you. But we do thank you so much for coming and being a part of this show. The history of Reynoldsburg is important to kind of share with everybody, especially when we haven't had the opportunity to share it with our, the third graders, like you had mentioned, and actually coming to some of these events. So we'll make sure to get all of those things posted and promoted out there so we can see our school board members and our councilwomen and council members out at some of these events, and make sure that everybody understands how important our history is as we move forward as a city. So
yeah, I'd love to give the council people a tour. They're welcome anytime to come over, and you will arrange it for them because they really need to see the heritage of the town.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you very much. If there are no other questions still. All right, so we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit, and Mary, like this fits with you as well. It is National Women's History Month, and so what we are going to be doing from here on out the rest of the month is highlighting some of our, basically some of our women in our community that have made contributions, not only as elected officials, but just as public servants and volunteers. So I'd like to welcome Councilwoman Shanette Strickland from Ward 1. And I would also like to bring in Angela Abram from the Reynoldsburg City School Board office, who between the two of us, I think 3 of us really, COVID has changed everybody's expectations for a year. So we'll start off with Councilwoman Strickland. Again, thank you for being here. You obviously have done more than just being on a council. So why don't you tell everybody who's watching just a little bit about yourself and what National Women's Day means to you?
Yeah, so thank you, Mayor Begney, for inviting me to your show. So again, I always feel it's a privilege and an honor to be here. I have been in our community, working between our younger generation and also our older generation, young boys, young girls, just making sure that they had a place to, someone to come and talk to be a friend. And just being there. Yes, I have contributed to just being a part of different other communities, being a mentor to individuals, and also, having them attend different trips, setting up those different trips and teaming them up with things that they were hopefully, when you think about a career, teaming those individuals up with a doctor or a lawyer, or bringing them in as guest speakers to talk and see what those individuals are doing. So it's been an exciting time. I truly believe that we have to prepare our younger generation just for the future. It is a must. When I think about what's the purpose of Women's History Month, it is to increase the knowledge of women's history, to take 1 month out of the year to just remember everyone that had contributed to a notable and ordinary woman. It's in hope that it's in hope that the day will soon come when impossible to teach or learn history without remembering these contributions. And I end up finding that information now on the web to just make sure that every woman, it's important to make sure you speak up, stand up, because in the past we didn't have the right to, vote or have a voice. So it's so important to make sure that we call out those ordinary women just working in their community.
Well, and one thing on that one, for everybody watching, one of her big nicknames is Coach. I knew her at the tail end of her son who was playing for Reynoldsburg, and it was a perfect word for it. So it wasn't just motivation for everything else, but definitely helping out all the kids to understand what the potential they have and how they're able to grow. So thank you for being here with us today. Board Member Angela Abram, you've been busy just as much as everyone else. So why don't you tell us about your thoughts on National Women's Month?
Well, thank you for welcoming me to the show. I'm always honored to be here. I'm greeting you today from the school where I work. And, so you may hear some extraneous, children's voices. I'm an occupational therapist, and I work with children who have various learning differences. And that's how I have provided public service throughout my career. I've been doing this for about 33 years. And I'm a mom. I've been a resident of Reynoldsburg for almost 22 years now. And my husband, Doug, and I have been married for 30 years. And I wear many hats, like many women. Ordinary women doing extraordinary things. So, I wear the hat of a mom, I wear the hat of a wife, I wear the hat of a professional, and then I also wear the hat of an elected position. I believe that Women's History Month allows us a time to study, observe, and celebrate the vital role of women in American history. There are many avenues that you can pursue as a woman, and I'm glad that I am of an era that there are things that are no longer unavailable. There are things available to me now that my mother and my grandmother were not able to access. There's a lot of things that our younger children will never know because of what the women before us have already tackled and dismantled. We still have a number of things that we need to work on in terms of equity, in terms of pay equity, reproductive rights, and then also dismantling some of these antiquated gender role expectations. One of my favorite poems is one by Maya Angelou called Women's Work. And if you have time, check it out and you'll see how far we have progressed as a society in terms of how we treat our women. If you have any other areas of women's history that you'd like to learn, there's a website called womenshistory.gov, and it explores just the role of women in American history, essentially since the International Women's Day was established back in 1909. So I enjoy all the roles that I have as a woman, and I am not even sure how many more roles will be revealed to me. So I just want all those women out there who are doing those extraordinary, ordinary things, keep doing it, because we are dependent on you for all of it.
Well, thank you very much. Mary, I know it's kind of not what we were talking about, what are your thoughts on, obviously you're a major contributor to our community here in Reynoldsburg. What are your thoughts on National Women's Day?
Well, we have a lot of women right here in Reynoldsburg that have accomplished a lot of things. I talked about Connie, who's been published 27 times. We had a lady back in the 40s that flew when the men were flying overseas in World War II. She was transporting bombers back and forth to Air Force bases in the States. There's women that have accomplished a lot and come back home and been a mother and been the wife. And it's a lot of responsibility. And I think it's great to honor these women. We have in our showcase, when you walk in, the first thing you see are 2 displays for those 2 particular women. A lady that used to be an officer that's since passed away was invited to President Kennedy's inaugural ball at the White House. And we have her dress that she wore hanging in the museum. And when she passed away, or her brother passed away, her daughter came to the museum, was thrilled to see her mother's dress. She didn't know what had happened to it, and she found it in the museum, and she was just thrilled. So there's a lot of women that do a lot, and they don't take credit for it.
Right.
And they deserve to have the credit for it.
Absolutely. Well, I thank all of you for your thoughts on this. We will have many guests as we go through the rest of the month of March to get this perspective. One of the posters that I'd always have in my classroom when I was a teacher was well-behaved women rarely make history. And I think that that's something that has always spoke to me, and definitely spoke to a large number of my students about the fact of, some of those challenges that women have to face. And especially when you're young and growing up in a high school environment, those challenges as well. It's always good to instill and nourish that sense of independence, which is always a wonderful thing. Always got to thank my wife in this, because I would not be where I am without her. And to be honest with you, she has to put up with me. So again, things that people have to deal with. There you go. So for her, if she's watching, I do appreciate that. But yes, this is a great thing. I'm very thankful for it. This was not my idea specifically. This actually was an idea that was created from our Welcoming and Diversity Committee. So for those of you that are watching on the Welcoming and Diversity Committee, they are making a very good difference in how the city operates in terms of our communication and recognizing the richness of our diversity in general in Reynoldsburg, and to make sure that everyone feels welcome with it. And this is with last week's statement that I read over the air, and then this week's with the guests, we're going to continue to build on that. So again, that's one of those great things when people work together, we are truly better together in that regard. So I'm going to go through I'd love for you to stay on so you know what's coming up here in Reynoldsburg, but we got a couple of events not too far off in the distance. We have our Reynoldsburg football players are doing their cash drop on March 21st from 11 to 4 p.m. at the Livingston campus. As we all know, attendance was limited this past year, and so a lot of our football teams were not used to the same level of funding that they had gotten from those ticket sales in the past. And we have a huge season, as Mary mentioned earlier. It is the 75th anniversary of our first football game. So we want to make sure that we go out and support our football players to make sure that they have the best tools, the equipment, the training facilities, everything that they need to go out and hopefully beat those teams across 256 that shall not be named. So hopefully, again, you can come out on March 21st from 11 to 4. We are going to postpone our town hall meeting for code enforcement. And the reason why is because the weather is so nice and some of the restrictions are being lifted. we're hoping to actually have a town hall and actually have some people come in so we can have a little bit more of an actual conversation of things. So we're going to wait a little bit longer on that one. But we're going to have an actual town hall because, again, a lot of people are always asking questions. Why is this enforced? How is this done? And William and I have talked about it, and we'd love to have that more of a face-to-face impact as soon as we are able to. We also have some Parks and Rec Department in our city and a community association are ready for a bunch of events coming up this summer. I would say that we're trying to make up for a little bit of lost time last year, but we are actively looking for musical guests for Music in the Cul-de-sac. You're going to see the Easter Bunny going on tour here in the not too distant future. We'll have the routes out there and the Easter Bunny will be there for some photographs. We've got some summer camp activities that have just popped up. So for those kids that want to make sure you get them out of the house over the summertime to get some activities, we've got some great things there on our website. I know a lot of people have already started looking at Operation Shamrock. If you've been able to travel around in certain parts of our city, you've seen the Shamrocks with the QR code on there. So please go ahead and do it. It's a great scavenger hunt for everybody out there. And I am not telling you the answer to anything. So when you message me, I'm not helping you cheat. You know who I'm talking about. So keep that in mind, but go out and have some fun with that. And we also have some Pine Quarry nature parks that are coming up in a little bit. Pine Quarry is kind of a Reynoldsburg's little hidden gem. And we want to have some nice nature walks out in that limestone quarry so we can kind of share with people what that has to offer. It is something unlike that you're going to see anywhere else in the Central Ohio area. A few people from the area have referred to it as kind of our version of like an old man's cave. And it's just a wonderful area to kind of go in. It's very much a nature-based park, which again is a little bit different than some of the other things that we have to offer. We also have a food drive coming up on April 10th for Helping Hands, sponsored by the Lions Club, the Reynoldsburg City School District, the Reynoldsburg City and Impact Church. We will be doing a drop-off of non-perishable items, and I'm sure we'll accept cash donations on, again, April 10th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. So I hope you can make it out for that. I know there'll be another one not long after, but again, especially in this time of need, anything that we can do to help those that are less fortunate is a benefit. With that, we also have our blessing boxes that are all the way throughout the city of Reynoldsburg. If there's a Facebook page for it that is really good about letting people know when a certain blessing box is running low on things, or if this one needs something, or just to make people aware of what's out there. Again, it's a great opportunity for there to make sure that those that have certain needs are able to have access to some of those kind of food items. We are also hiring. So yes, we are hiring. We've got a couple of seasonal positions for our recreation department. So site supervisors to help with soccer games, to help with baseball, to help with maybe some other events like the farmers market, things like that. So if you are interested in those positions, you can go to our website. We also have our Parks and Recreation department will need some help with maintenance for some extra workers to help keep our community as beautiful as it is right now. Sometimes it could be something as simple as cutting the grass to helping other areas kind of clean some things out. So we really appreciate if you're interested in those positions, feel free and look on our website. And the big one is going to be our tax administrator. Brenda Browning, who is our tax administrator, is retiring, and I'm sure she's very much counting down the days. So we'll try and have her on a little bit closer, but she's been here and she is a wealth of information, and she helps so much with the day-to-day operations in the city, as well as dealing with some of the more unique challenges to finances when it comes to our JET agreements, our economic development deals that we have with Etna Township and things like that. So if she's going to need someone to succeed her. No one will ever replace her. She is so valuable to us here at the city, but somebody will have to have those shoes filled at some point. So if you're interested in those things, again, take a look at our website. We do have a small little bit of information on development, nothing major today, but we all know that the Chick-fil-A is coming to the city of Reynoldsburg, and we will be seeing the Logans over in the 256 area where it's going in. That is actually going to be coming down sometime in the next couple of weeks, and they're planning to begin construction. I would say, I think I've heard the first week of April or so, weather depending. So you may see the building that's there now get torn down in the not too distant future. But that Chick-fil-A will be here, and it's got a double drive-through. So if you've ever been to the Broad Street location, that takes, and they move them fast, but wow, there's a lot of cars in there. So this is going to be kind of the first post-COVID Chick-fil-A that's going to have that double drive-through to keep things moving even faster to get all the chicken you want. So keep an eye out for that one. Next week on the terms of development, we will have our Director of Development, Andrew Boucher, on the show. I'm sure we'll have plenty of questions to answer on that one, but I know Andrew's looking forward to talking about any number of things, specifically about the Alliance and some other potential things that we're hoping to come up, as well as what the process is and really what the city can and cannot do when it comes to development. So I'm looking forward to having him on. But in the meantime, Mary, thank you so much. Angela, Shanette, the three of you have been fabulous. You've done everything that we wanted for the show, and we really appreciate it. But I think, do we have a question? It looks like we've got, there's always, right when you get towards the end, there's usually some questions. Go ahead.
Yeah, resident wants to know if there'll be a community cleanup garage sale this year.
Yes, we are going to have a community cleanup garage sale. It's going to look a little bit different. We'll have the garage sale weekend. We'll have that posted. It's usually that same weekend that we do in the first weekend in June. The community cleanup is going to be a little bit different. We could not get a shred-it truck this year for the spring or for the summer one. So we're going to try and move that one into the fall in October. So we'll have the shred-it, and we're looking to have some hazardous materials as well. But the June one, we're going to do a couple of things. We're going to try and organize some litter pickup programs, some things that have been done in the past that maybe, for someone who is a little bit older and isn't able to maintain some of the things in their house, if they need help with landscaping, we have some of our other church groups or other nonprofit groups to come out and help with that. So keep your eyes open for that. We'll have some information out there. I know we've got a bunch of trash bags and some litter pickup that's out there. I know that now that the weather is starting to turn, I'm going to get back to what I tried to do last year, which is, apparently now we have 2 dogs. So holding 1 dog and 1 leash, and then a trash picker and the other leash. And because you never know what you're going to find out out there on the time. But anytime that we can pick up our community, it's always a good thing. So we appreciate that question. Anything else? All right, ladies, thank you so much again for everything. For those of you that, again, want to get more involved in the Historical Society, you've got the information on your screen, or you can look it up at the website at www.rths.info. It's a great place to get involved, to get a little bit more awareness of what we have here in Reynoldsburg and why we are such a wonderful city of respect. So go out and enjoy that sun today, all of you, and enjoy. And thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you next week. Bye now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.